Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz. Aloha. I'm sitting here in beautiful Honolulu, and joined with us is Jordan Clark. He is in beautiful Las Vegas at his private coffee shop, and Jordan has been in the meeting and incentive industry in Las Vegas for many years. He can give you a little bit of his background. And we welcome anyone on board, and we wanted to keep this really interactive, like always. So if you have a question or if you have a comment, of course you can chat, but easier, you can just raise your hand on the right side. If you click on participant and raise your hand, and we can open up your microphone so we can all talk together. This is also supposed to be on Facebook live stream. I hope it works. It took me a little bit to set it up. Sorry you guys had to wait a little bit. But nevertheless, we are ready. Jordan, the floor is yours.
Great. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for having me today. I appreciate it. And happy Easter to those who celebrate as well. Today, they asked me to talk a little bit about Las Vegas first, and then also a little bit about the meetings industry and potentially the future of what could happen in the meetings industry. So first of all, thank you very much to all of our frontline folks that are helping us all through this. And hopefully we're rounding the corner at some point here soon. Yesterday in Las Vegas, we had the Air Force Thunderbirds fly over and do a circle around every single hospital in Las Vegas, where they put off blue smoke just to honor the healthcare workers who are helping us through this crazy time that we're in. But so anyway, I've had the pleasure to actually ride my bike down to the Las Vegas Strip several times in the last couple of weeks, many of you are probably trying to find different things to occupy your time. And that's one of the things that I've taken up. It's about a 36-mile round trip for me. So it's quite a day. But I wanted to share some news about Las Vegas. And although I live here and I love the city like no other, we operate meetings all over the world. And one of the reasons I think it's important to talk about Las Vegas is that generally speaking, in the past, a lot of the trends throughout the world in the meetings industry follow sometimes what Las Vegas experiences, and I'm optimistic at best. So right now, unfortunately, it is an eerie sight. You can actually ride your bicycle all the way down the strip from one end to the other, and the middle of the strip, because there's not very many cars, and each casino is being protected by the awesome security forces that we have in Las Vegas, as well as our awesome Metro Police Department. So every facility has security and police out in front of it. And while that in and of itself is sad, it's not indicative of the energy and focus that the city has. So it's pretty cool. The Las Vegas was awarded recently or noted for being an awesome participant of shelter in place, and it is truly, everybody's really doing their best to stay at home. And I think one of the reasons that the hospitality industry as a whole and the meetings industry are paramount in Las Vegas. And I think that we all understand the seriousness of it, and we of course would like to get back to business as usual as soon as possible. So everybody's doing their part to chip in and do their best, and the community is very vibrant. As a matter of fact, the hospitality workers wanted to do a car parade down the Las Vegas Strip to show solidarity and their anxiousness to get back. And our governor politely asked us not to make sure. He was afraid that too many people would come out to watch, and we're taking everything here very seriously. But I do think that Las Vegas in general will work harder, and as they are incredibly not only resilient but also incredibly adaptive. They've shown themselves to be over the years during past tragedies and crises, and we've always risen to the occasion, and I believe that the city will continue to do that. And speaking with all the great folks in the city here, everyone is certainly on board and already working to figure out what it is that we're going to do as a city to come back. And I'm confident that's happening actually in every city all over the world, quite frankly, but very confident that things will return at some point. They asked me to talk a little bit about the future of meetings, and I've written an article that will come out tomorrow, and you'll be able to find it on LinkedIn if you want to, but it's actually the how CEOs are going to predicting the future of face-to-face meetings. So, and the article we wrote, it talks about 12 different ways that meetings and will be affected post COVID-19. So I thought I'd go through that really briefly with you. I spent the last couple of weeks, I'll give you the abridged version here, I spent the last couple of weeks talking to many CEOs about their feelings of what they're going to be looking for, and what their opinions are on face-to-face meetings and what types of things that they see will change. And I'll run through those with you quickly, and then we'll just open it up for questions and we can talk about whatever it is you guys would like to chat about. But the 12 main things that folks are talking about is that companies and organizations still need meetings, and CEOs recognize that. And part of the reason for that, number two, is that face-to-face creates memorable experiences, and CEOs really value that because that's how they get information retained by people so that they can build their teams and move forward. And then third is, I think you may all relate with this, people really want to go to meetings, especially now that we've been held up in our own homes and what have you. We're anxious to see our friends, our colleagues, and exchange information, build networks, and learn information, share experiences. So, however, the CEOs do predict that we will move a little bit towards what I call a meetings on a mission format, which means that we're going to be changing up things a little bit about how they've been acting. Of course, revenue is a huge issue for every company in the world right now, and where that's coming in, and there will be quite a big push to make sure that we keep things tight and that we are accomplishing what we need to accomplish in as little amount of time as possible for as little as expense as possible. So it would be more about meeting responsibility, which is the next thing. And I say content is king, but collaboration is now the new emperor, is my focus. And the reason for that is that because we have all been sequestered in our homes, if you run a good meeting, collaboration is always the king, and it always has to be positive and effective. But going forward, collaboration, everybody wants to collaborate. We all want to understand. We've kind of had that sort of sequestered from us for a time, and we're out there and we're interested in communicating and sharing information, and the smart CEOs are going to value that that attribute, and they're going to be speaking with more employees and making sure that we get everybody's input and not just a few people's input on how we go forward. So one of the other things that came up consistently is that CEOs are expecting ISR to be greater than CSR, and that's a new term. So ISR, individual social responsibility, will trump corporate social responsibility. Now, corporate social responsibility will never go away, but to briefly go into that, companies in the past, all of us have been focused on, we want to know what our company is doing for the community and to give back. And now we're switching, and people really want to be a part of that. And we want to help our employers decide what we're going to do. And we want to help our employers decide if there's any products or services that we provide that can actually be repurposed and, put out there. So if we may judge our hotels, for example, by how many rooms do you give back every year, kind of like a lawyer gives pro bono work back to the community. Like what types of things can we provide, excuse me, to as a company to help out people. Since simplicity is a key is the next attribute, which is the days of lavish meetings are over, and I think we're going to see that people are really going to be focused on just making sure that we bring people together, but the days of lavish meetings are over. And I assimilate this to European meetings. I've always been fascinated by the meetings that I've been to in Europe, and I certainly hope I'm not generalizing, but I always found them to be quite nice, but also quite pleasantly basic and really focused on the information and what have you, and not the fancy chargers and things like that. Not to say that fancy meetings can't happen in Europe, they certainly do. But I think on average, people really value the actual interactions a little bit more. And I think that that's going to come our way here to North America soon. So quality is important, but the costs will be reviewed carefully. So, the microscope on responsible spending has been raised to the next power. And I think you're going to see a lot of pushback on some of the charges in the meetings industry, the prices per gallons of cup of coffee and that type of thing, lavish spending. I think the customers will start demanding that some of those prices be looked at, which is going to create a whole nother challenge for hotels, which we'll talk about some other time, which is how are they going to continue to make margins and that type of thing. But responsible spending is going to be key. So the next attribute is that superfluous attendance will be out. So you always want to make sure that you have the appropriate people at meetings, but I think that will go under quite a bit of scrutiny going forward, and people will make sure that the people that are going to the meetings actually need to be at the meetings. But that doesn't necessarily mean lower attendance. It just means that because of the collaborative world that we're going to be enhancing, I should say, that we're going to make sure that the right people are at the meetings so that we can get the complete value and the best return on investment for those things. And that doesn't always mean less people. It means sometimes bringing in the more. And one of the last three attributes here, the last two attributes, is the safe environment. So, having hand sanitizer only at meetings and hotels is not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough for customers. It's also not going to be enough for employees. So we're going to have to find new creative ways to make sure that and ensure that we are providing a very safe environment for folks. And I think that creativity is going to be key there, with people looking into newer and more recognizable ways of doing that, in addition to not only keeping those environments safe, communicating to attendees before they leave their home bases and what types of things will be done, and so that they can benchmark them and feel a little bit more comfortable about that journey in general. So the last attribute that CEOs discussed is that they really feel that they already value face-to-face meetings. They wouldn't be in the positions that they're in if they did not. And they absolutely need to have meetings in order to move their businesses forward. However, in the past, sometimes CEOs have seen the meetings departments as cost centers. And now I think they're seeing it more as, at least the CEOs that I spoke to, seeing it more as, an absolute necessity to get professional help. So I call it conciliaries needed. They really need to make sure that they have someone focusing on the meeting at all times, not only for content delivery and making sure that they're getting the return on their investment, but keeping attendees safe and making sure that someone's been watching all of those different variables throughout the process. So to make sure that everybody is safe and that we're maximizing and not wasting any of the things out there. So in short, meetings will continue to happen. They're just going to be a little bit different. That's the summary of this. And CEOs, again, have always valued their employees first. And now they're recognizing that not only do they need to value their employees as the most precious commodity, but they are also valuing their employees and team having to meet face-to-face as in order to get things done as a high priority. So I just spoke for a while, so I'll take a deep breath and see if.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think this was quite an insight. So altogether, you think there's going to be tremendous changes once we get out of this situation, not only for Las Vegas, but for the world. And I see online, we have a number of people who I know are very much working in the meeting and incentive industry. So if you have any questions or comments or want to add anything, please feel free to do so. Just raise the hand and we'd be happy to give you the microphone. Don't be shy. Altogether, John, when you see, when you're talking about safety, security, actually we were planning an event with you with Safer Tourism and Dr. Peter Tarlow, who actually couldn't join us today. He had a family emergency he had to attend to this morning. But tell us a little bit about the conference we planned and what happened and what are the next plans for this?
Sure. So the International Association of Tourism Safety and Security has been around for about 26 years, and we were going to operate our 27th program this year in Las Vegas. And it's a conference where we bring together people who are related to all sorts of safety and security. So not just the security side of it, but also the safety, things when MRSA happens and now COVID-19 and other things. So everybody from Homeland Security, CIA, FBI, your police chiefs, local police forces and what have you, everybody who's focused on tourism, in addition, people from the CDC and NIH and hospitals and doctors and everything, even medical tourism. There's a lot of different areas, but we had a very robust program with 14 different speakers ready to go for this at the end of April. Unfortunately, obviously, it was the right thing for us to do to postpone that until later. So we're still searching for a later date this year. But we had everything from, we already had COVID-19 folks ready to speak on there. We also had ministers of tourism from multiple different countries. We had experts on human trafficking from American Airlines and ECPAC and so on and so forth. So that conference, naturally we had to postpone for a little while, but that community is of most importance, and it's an area where in the past historically folks have come together to share experiences. So I'll use Las Vegas because I'm here, but if we had an incident in Las Vegas, which we had a few. Those people will get together and share the experiences. What worked well, what didn't work. Let's share instead of sequestering that information. Let's share that information on what we did well and what things could have gone better, so that we can share that information with other cities should they encounter those types of things. But it's also more about not just about reacting. It's about planning, and we help folks plan and put together plans and what have you, so that they can be ready, and that their police forces and their hospitality communities as a whole can be ready. So you've seen how quickly everyone had to react here due to COVID-19, and we have so many wonderful stories of how things went well. But instantaneously had articles coming out in genuine interest of helping people. Like, here's the best thing to do if you have to close down your restaurant. Let's get it done this way. And then, of course, from the medical perception, we've all been privy to lots of different advice, and regionally and locally. So,
tell us a little bit about Vegas, how it is. We all hear Las Vegas is kind of locked down. So when you walk, have you been on the Strip? Are all the casinos closed? How's the feeling?
Yeah. It's interesting. So the social media, thankfully, I'm glad, because I do believe that social media and virtual meetings are a great supplement to face-to-face meetings. I don't think they'll ever replace them, but it has been nice to be able to stay in touch with folks. And the hospitality community in Las Vegas, which I'm only using because I've been a part of for 20 some odd years, and I'm certain that many other cities, if not all other cities, mimic the same types of thing. But we're talking to each other all day, every day, and we are ready to go. We are all curious about what we can do, what can we be doing to prepare, what have you. But yes, there are, really no visitors here, and we've gotten, our governor has taken what I particularly think is an outstanding stance, and he's been very strict about everything from the get-go. Within a day or two, asked everybody to close down, it was a mind-blowing activity. These casinos haven't been closed, and you can joke about it, but where do you find the keys to the front door of a casino that's been open 24/7 for the last 30 years, right? So, there's some cases where some of the hotels had to go, get some plywood to, seal up the casino. But we're all anxious, I think, just to get the entire city, depends on tourism here, and it really is our primary and almost sole industry here. So hopefully we'll react quickly. But yes, it is quiet, with everyone who works in the industry ready to support and get back as soon as we can.
Yeah, and I think this doesn't make you alone, be the only one. And this is really our big plus, that we're all in the same boat. We're all anxious to get this industry and any industry going again. And I think we're all a little bit depressed. I myself live in the center of Waikiki. Anyone who's been to Hawaii knows the Ala Moana shopping center. You see my view from my apartment in the background. So when you walk down, you're right inside the Ala Moana shopping center, and it's closed. In 30 years I lived here, you never seen the shopping center closed. So it is, and then you go to Waikiki and everything is deserted. There are drones flying around warning people to leave the beach. So it's really an unreal atmosphere, I guess, anywhere in the world. We still have about 100 tourists coming in here on a daily basis, even though they are required to go into self-quarantine for 2 weeks in their hotel room, not allowed to even use the swimming pool and the restaurant. So I don't know why they're still coming. Hopefully they have a nice hotel room, a suite with a nice balcony, ocean front. Otherwise, it's not really a welcoming place like it used to be. Las Vegas, you still have visitors coming to maybe some of your resorts. I'm thinking about the Marriott resort outside the city. Are they still have any traffic?
Yeah, I actually live near that particular resort that you just mentioned, and that is also closed down. So some of those, some of the restaurants and some of the local hotels are still doing delivery of food and that type of thing, but you can't enter them as a guest. So the driveways are still barricaded, and those that are not are just for allowing food deliveries in and out and that type of thing. So, but you know, and I can't really speak to how many visitors are coming in because I'm a little bit detached from that that aspect of it. But you know, we are still sourcing meetings for future in Las Vegas. Sourced 2 of them last week. Our customers are looking to move forward, so we're looking at a program in September and another program in March of 21. So September of 2020 and March of 2021. So. But again, I don't know the specific visitors, but you know, every Convention and Visitors Bureau authority across the country is also experiencing a 100% lack of revenue from tourist taxes and that type of thing. So it's a very interesting debacle, and one that I don't think that anyone would have ever predicted.
Now, when it comes to meeting, and you're a meeting planner for the most part, meetings you have planned that were in the pipeline, who's taking the loss? Are you taking the loss? The resorts are taking the loss, or you both are taking losses? How is this divided?
That's a really good question. So the short answer is that I think everybody's taking the losses. Unfortunately, the hotels are around the country and the world are, I think, probably taking more of the loss than the companies that are planning meetings. But both of them are contributing. And, you know, I've heard a lot of terrible stories about, you know, folks that were having meetings in March and April, and the hotels were, you know, around the world were giving them a difficult time about canceling and so on and so forth. I mean, at the end of the day, you really have to look at it as like, look, no company ever, you know, made this situation happen, nor did any hotel make this situation happen. So we're in it together, and the sooner that we can sit down at the table together and find an amenable solution for both of us, the better. And thankfully, in most cases, that happened rather quickly. But it did take some time to get folks on the same page about that.
Now, for your future meeting you're planning in September, do you take COVID-19 threats and guidelines in consideration, like social distancing and so forth, when you plan these meetings now? Or do you think this is going to be history in September and you don't have to worry about it?
Boy, I hope that it is going to be history, but I think that good sense says that we're still going to be, you know, quite focused in on that, no matter, even if we are out and about and traveling by then, which I certainly hope. So the meeting in September, I don't want to get in too much in specifics about that particular customer. The CEO of that organization is very optimistic about things coming back quicker. My job is to advise that individual of all potential outcomes, and which I've certainly done. And with that particular search, we are going out and looking at which hotels might be a fit. And that one is actually, we're sourcing a lot of different places in the US for that, not just Las Vegas. And we've narrowed it down to, let's say, 10 different possibilities, but we're not actually going to contract yet. So we've got 10 things on the horizon, but I think it's a little bit too soon. One of the things that I tell people that is missing right now that we are trying to figure out is the inflection point of recovery. And I'll say it again because it's really meaningful if you think about it. It's the inflection point of how do we know when it is that things have turned around, or that the things are starting to turn around. And unfortunately, one of the best examples of that situation is 9/11. So when 9/11 happened, horrible experience. But on the 12th, we were reasonably certain that it was over, at least until we had another attack. So we thought that everything was over, and recovery began. Now, recovery was slow, and it was painful, and it was arduous, and it took us a long time, but we were in recovery, and everybody knew that we were headed in that general direction. Right now, we have everyone standing by, everyone waiting anxiously and excitedly to move forward, but we don't know if it's time to move forward yet, right? Because we're dealing with something that we don't completely understand. So trying to determine what that inflection point of recovery is really key before I can start advising customers that it's wise for them to enter into agreements with hotels and what have you. But we are standing by and ready, and we're all the way up to the line and all the way up to the dance floor, if you will. And we're ready to dance. We just have to wait for the sign that it's okay to.
And I think, again, you're not alone with this. I think every CVB in the world is waiting for the same sign. And as you rightfully say, the industry is about to change. We don't know what all these changes would be. Do you think money for meetings, considering now with all the online competition, like Zoom, for example, we're using here for this platform and others, what will they do to the meeting industry? Obviously, they're not very healthy for the meeting industry. Virtual meetings is not what you want. That's not how you make your money.
Well, I think it's more about making money. So I'm first and foremost, I'm a believer in face-to-face interactions. And part of the reason why I wrote the article that's coming out tomorrow is because anyone who really understands face-to-face meetings knows that in order to move things forward, you need to build trust with people. You need to build camaraderie, and that's how teams get built. And it's hard to say. And I think that Zoom meetings, I've been using Zoom, first of all, just for full transparency. I've been using Zoom for nearly 7 years. So I'm one of the very first adopters of it. And when it came out in 13 and 13 and 14, and I'm a huge fan. But Zoom is in my company, of course, with our name, face-to-face meetings and incentives. We really try very hard to make sure that all of our phone calls are on Zoom, because these are so much more effective than just regular phone calls or emails or what have you. However, they don't replace face-to-face meetings, and not because that's our business, because you can't build trust and camaraderie over Zoom because there's a lack of experience. So one of the things that I wrote about in the article is, a year from now, everyone's on Zoom now, right? So you maybe have 15 Zoom calls a week. So how are you going to remember a year from now a very specific meeting that you had this week, and who was on it, and what was discussed, and what the outcomes were? I mean, it's a methodology, it's a means to an end to keep us going forward. But in order to build that real trust and camaraderie, you have to have an experience together, and you have to spend time, what happens during breaks, and after meetings over during the day. That's where relationships are built. That's where trust is built. Most importantly, I keep coming back to trust because it's very important. And I believe it's something that is really only built in time over person by person. So I think that the future, you asked before, I think that Zoom will be very important, and I'm glad to see people finally getting into it, because it's just more effective anyway than phone calls and emails and what have you. But I don't think that it will, we may meet less, but I think that people will quickly understand the value of face-to-face is really about, having those people together in the same room. But now I just went through 12 different things. I think that we'll be spending less when we're in there. And I think that we'll be making sure that the right people are there. We're not going to have anybody, we're not going to say, oh, Jürgen, you did a good job. You can come to this meeting, even though it's not really kind of in your alley. No, if you're not mission critical to that meeting, I don't think you're going to get invited anymore, at least in the short term. And, CEOs, let's not forget, while they value face-to-face meetings, that's the last 2 weeks of phone calls, 3 weeks of phone calls. They totally value that. They're also up against an enormity of other complexities that they never have anticipated, right? A complete lack of revenue in some sources. Even just going back and how to fix problems that have happened when we weren't expecting COVID, and what we're going to do forward, and safety of employees, and safe working environments. There's just an enormous amount of things, challenges for CEOs to overcome.
No, I can imagine, and we all don't know this. One advantage is if you go to Vegas, at least you may still have the casinos and make your money back at the end. Well, we're almost coming to the end, but I would love for anyone having any questions just to raise your hand. We have a couple minutes left. I see people on board here, like Adam, for instance. I know he's involved in the Chinese part of the business. Love to hear from you. Or Dale, I see my friend Dale here from Charlie's Taxi. What I have to say, not because I know Dale, is one of the most wonderful and probably one of the best taxi companies I've seen in the world. She has a safety and security training similar to a flight simulation before she accepts a driver. So all these people, I see a lot of them on board, both on Facebook and on our platform. This is your last chance to say something. If you want, raise your hand. If you don't, we understand, and we appreciate everyone who has been attending this last minute meeting. We haven't had a lot of time to put it together, but I thought it was timely to talk about the meeting and incentive industry. And we wanted to really keep up with the development and maybe have Jordan back a few times and others to discuss what is the future really, what is next. And I know it's way too early to talk about recovery right now, but hopefully hopefully very soon we're getting into this mode. And I think, as you said, Jordan, everyone is already preparing for it, and we have to, because we're desperate for business and we're desperate for getting things back to normal, but of course in a safe way. Well,
one of the things, if you don't, just a couple of tips for each other, because there's 10 of us on our team and we're throughout the country, and we're trying to be proactive and not just, we see a lot of our, some folks out there maybe kind of sitting idle and saying that they're bored, and we've been very busy preparing and helping each other. We're trying to support our partners, our vendors, our suppliers, and we've taken this time. And generally speaking, a lot of destinations want to come in and talk to our team and tell us about what's going on there. And we oftentimes find ourselves too busy because we're working on programs and we can only take so much time to do that. I mean, we do allow it, but we can only do. Right now we're on conference calls every day, learning about destinations, polishing our skills, and taking the time to support the suppliers. And that time that I did a call with Albuquerque the other day, to learn about some hotels there. I've never been there, so it's an interesting thing. But doing a couple calls with other destinations in this coming week, and really think that it's important to support each other, and also just to check in on each other, see what's going on and how everybody's doing and how we can help and what have you. So we will be back for sure. But just helping each other through this unknown period is super important.
Yeah, thank you. We actually have Michael Paulin, if I pronounce this correctly, with my German accent, joining us. Michael, the floor is yours.
I'm joining you from Diamond Head. My question, or my concern for you gentlemen, is I have not heard the airline component and how that plays into the overall delivery of meetings to a destination. And have you had the opportunity to speak with CEOs, et cetera, of the air carriers, either in the Las Vegas or Hawaii or other major destinations like Orlando?
So interesting.
What they are doing.
That's good. No, it's very good. I was actually in the corporate headquarters of American Airlines just last month, right before all this went down, and I've been keeping. They were also part of the speakers that were expected at our conference, so I've been keeping close tabs on them. So I know that the U.S. president met with leaders of all the airlines this weekend, or is meeting with them, continuing today, to discuss how the stimulus package can be addressed specifically to them and to airline employees. I have not heard the results of that yet. So I also just, it's early here on a Sunday morning, so I haven't had a chance to finish reading the news today. So it might be out there already. I just haven't had a chance to look at it. But that's an excellent point, because all of these things can't happen unless we've got that airlift. And myself, I've had, I know, Jürgen, you travel quite a bit as well. And I've had 3 or 4 flights of mine that places I was going to go to, just canceled. And, you can't go, you can't go. So it's an excellent, excellent point, Michael.
And in addition to aviation, has even more challenges, because when we're on an airplane, we're in a very closed environment. And now with social distancing, this is becoming quite a challenge. Even though flights are empty, I understand there are flights arriving here in Honolulu with 15, 20 people on board. And then, of course, you can spread out. Maybe even you get upgraded to first class quite easy and have a little bit more space. And I'm just wondering, do you see that the space issue on airlines with coronavirus will change, so we get more space, we get maybe get the middle seat open? And did you see things like this happening?
I think the airlines have got to address those things. You know, it'll be interesting to see. I think that some of that will become a little more prevalent when we learn a little bit more about COVID and what controls it. And you know, I know there was a scientist in organization in Australia yesterday who announced that they actually came out through e-server, right? So there was somebody who thought they found a potential drug that might cure COVID in, you know, 48 hours. Well, if that's the case, then that changes a lot of things. Of course, that's not vetted information yet, right? And we haven't got the finals out on that, but boy, wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah. So, but I think every business everywhere in the entire world has to relook at how they do business, and that's the case. But you know, back to Michael's point, you know, I think that us working as destinations to work with airlines to how we can get that. I do think that, you know, we have had quite a luxury of being able to hop multiple flights a day to a different location. And I in the short term, I see that, you know, just not being the case. You know, I hopefully it will open up again to even greater where it was. But, you know, in the short term, I think everything is going to be scaled back a little bit.
And you have many destinations like us here. Michael appears to also is in Hawaii. We're dependent on airlines. We cannot go anywhere without an airline. At least you guys can get in a car and go, you know, keep on driving and you get to wherever you want to go on the continent. We're in a different environment. So the aviation, of course, is even more important for island destinations or anyone who is truly depending on this type of transportation. So we are actually working on having a guest, a gentleman who was on the board for Etihad Airways. Hopefully we're going to have him as a guest in the next week or so. So keep on tuned, read eTurbo News. And if there's anyone else who wanted to raise a question, this is your last chance. We're like actually 10 minutes over time, but I really thank Jordan for coming in this morning and joining us. It's been quite educational, and hopefully we can talk again very soon. And hopefully we also have better news in the pipeline, so we see a little bit of a silver lining somewhere.
Absolutely. I just put up my email address on the webinar chat, just in case if anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out, and just hope everybody really stays safe and keep the optimism. Some days that's easier than others, but super important for all of us to do.
Yeah, and anyone who wanted to, who has questions, I'm glad you asked this. Feel free to email us. Just go to eturbonews.com, click on contact. We'll also be happy to forward it to our guests if you can see the email addresses directly, or feel free to WhatsApp us, Facebook. We're connected everywhere, and we love to talk to our to people who read us. It's very important, and so that's how we keep in touch. If anyone wants to be a guest on one of our upcoming webinars, also feel free to reach out. We're ready to consider. And one last thing, we teamed up with buzz.travel, BUZZ.travel. It's a new platform meant for the travel and tourism industry. I say it's kind of a mix between LinkedIn and Facebook with a lot of extra features. It's completely free to join. You can also post information, updates. Later on, you can post fam trips. You can actually advertise, and it doesn't cost you anything. So it's a good platform to interact. Take a look at it, buzz.travel, and sign up. But most important, keep on reading eTurbo News. And thanks for joining us. This video will be online probably in the next hour or so, both on eTurbo News, on our YouTube channel, and we're also going to put a link on safertourism.com. Again, happy Easter Sunday for everyone who is celebrating Easter. And aloha from Hawaii. And thank you again, Jordan, for participating.
Absolutely. No problem. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe, everyone.